I think that's about the third time I've done that, okay? So I'll just, once again, so welcome everybody. We're on the session 11, more STEAM material. This is our wrap-up class, and we are now recording. So that's I'm going to pay for that because some of those explanations were probably useful for other folks, but the fact that they weren't here to hear it live is probably going to be a little bit to their detriment then. Got to have some value for you guys coming in and spending your time doing this. All right, so let me go back. And just so everybody's sort of clear, the default on the mini projects is that they are going to be released for use. And I might, if you've done a particularly good job on your mini project, I might use that as an example on our course Moodle. You saw some examples that we had from previous students. We might use your project in a research paper of some kind. I haven't quite sort of figured out how I'm going to do that, but after 3 or 4 years of 80 students per quarter doing mini projects, from a research standpoint on lean, there's some good data there that I'm going to try to mine at some point in my career, and I'm going to assume that you're going to allow me to do that unless you've explicitly said, hey, there's confidential material in here that I don't want shared. Okay. So the default is that information you've provided in those mini projects would be potentially shareable. And I could also maybe post them on the Central Coast Lean website as another way to share. And then the other thing is, as you guys we've talked about and you guys are aware, there certainly are certification opportunities, green belt, transactional green belt, and black belt that you can pursue after successfully completing this course. And the general cutoff is like an 80% or better on all course elements will allow you to enter into the certification or project portion, all right? Any questions about any of those? All right, so with that, let's go ahead and proceed on. So we've seen this several times. We've seen it with the practice test. This is the final exam. So this is the green belt folks that are going to be concerned with that. So what we said last time and still holds is you can take this final exam anytime on Sunday or Monday at the end of this week. So you need to pick out a 3-hour time slot where you can go ahead and focus on taking this test. Any questions about taking the final exam for our green belt folks? Black belt folks are going to do the same sort of thing in December. As opposed to a 3-hour test, though, it's going to be a 5-hour test for the black belts. Okay, Tom, question.
Yes, this isn't about the final exam. It's for the practice. Was the practice open book and open note as well?
Yes, yes. So
I tried doing a closed book.
Was it a little harder, Tom? Was it?
A lot harder.
Yeah, no, both these things. So the idea on the practice test was try to give you a simulation of what the final exam would look like. And since since the final exam is open book, open note, we wanted the practice test to be the same. But you kind of got a sense of the questions, and you sort of know what you're up against, at least at this point. So that'd be your prep for the final. All right.
Yeah, and it'll at least give me a bit of a reassurance that if there are certain things I need clarification of, I can start thinking of what references I might want to
have handy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely with that. And we also tried to make the point value on that practice test was pretty low, 5% of your grade. So, hopefully it won't damage you too much. Right, on that first
All right, well,
round.
thanks for clarifying that.
Okay. All right, Tom. Any other questions about the final exam or other related things we've talked about? Okay. So proceeding on, so lean movie. So the movie this week was Right First Time. I think as I alluded to previously, this is like a classic of classics. It doesn't seem to have gotten a lot of play in the lean community. So this isn't necessarily a resumeable item. So if you went to like this lean conference, that I'm going to here in San Antonio, a lot of people that are heavily involved in lean, I bet you maybe 1 out of 5, 20% will have heard of right first time, because it's not a very readily available thing. You really got to work at getting this from the British Film Institute and whatnot. But I think it does a really good job of representing sort of a path, or what the path looked like, back in the old days. And son of a gun, the path is pretty much the same as what we would expect to follow today in doing a lean transformation within a company. Any comments from folks on key points or how it applies to the class that they want to share? You got any movie critics out there? I think I've seen some of those actors in some B-roll movies when I was a kid or something, but they're probably dead and buried by now.
I'll go ahead and make a comment. I really enjoyed the video. I like their accents, and it definitely had a classic feel to it. One of the things that I thought was particularly interesting was when it came time to they were trying to figure out how they were going to save money, or how they were going to meet the customer's demands, and realize that they thought it was going to cost them a lot of money. And then when they really started investigating it, and I think they went to another company's headquarters, and they realized that actually if they implemented the quality control measures, that they would actually end up costing them less, and then they could meet their customers' demands and give the customer value. And so I thought that was I thought they were making a really valid point there.
No, I think that's sort of the message we want to get out, and you can sort of imagine yourself working with a company or an organization that's just starting out on this lean journey, or trying to figure out sort of what to do. And the trials and the things that CEO or plant manager person had to do to make that happen would be some of the same sort of steps that you guys would run into, as sort of walking into a company as a the lean guru, if you will. Right? Any other comments on the movie? Okay, so let's go on to tips and tricks. So this is a little tip or trick that I think can help with the final exam, or anytime you're sort of working in this field. There is a lot of material within the more stream training that you're trying to look and find and hunt and search. So if this is open book and notes, sometimes it's just plain faster just to have some good lookup tables or conversion tables available. And so in the more stream material, if you go to their knowledge center and check out their toolbox, some of the more popular and useful tools will be right there. And you might want to sort of scan through what's in that knowledge center before you take the test. And I think this conversion table is really useful. So converting from defects per million to sigma level to CPK level, is a useful thing, help you answer a question, really fast potentially. Okay. All right. So that's the tip or trick for today. And then our last session was on control. So on the control piece. So we've gone through define, measure, analyze, and improve. So we've got our potentially got our improvement place, or the changes, the things we're going to do different in an organization. The control is about how to make it sticky. How do we sustain it? How do we kind of keep on doing it? And this is a really sort of tough thing. When we're doing these projects and we're trying to put these changes in place, we've done a lot of good work, hopefully, in making that happen. And there is a real tendency, a real human nature sort of tendency to backslide. And that's seen a lot in lean. So putting things in place to keep it in control, certainly, visual controls. So if you've gone in to the trouble to develop sort of a new process, think of, okay, I've got the process in a flow chart form here. How can I make that live and real for people? How can I get it up on the wall? Can I mark the workstations with the same numbering system that's on the flow chart? Can I put tape on the floor that shows how the process flows from one place to the other? Can I put message boards up that essentially identify when the process is in control or out of control? So all these things would be things that we would do like in the control phase. Certainly, the granddaddy or the thing that lean folks particularly know about, and especially in Six Sigma, is the idea of doing control charts. And the control elements on control charts, yes, we've talked about the keeping within the normal variation of the process between the upper and the lower control limit, but just the fact that the operators physically have to go up and mark the control chart, right? Get it out of the computer, get it up on the wall, have the person, if when they do their sample or their test, go walk over and actually plot it. That is an excellent reinforcing mechanism and really works with the human system of an organization. Any questions or comments about the control session or the control phase of a DMAIC process? If you do, raise your hand. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move on then. All right, so this is kind of a the course wrap up for me. More Steam, I think, included this Teddy Roosevelt quote early on in the course, and then they did something with I forget, some lesser president, Hoover or McKinley, sort of later on. But I really like this one, and it speaks to me about maybe what your role is in being a lean champion within an organization. So I'm just going to go ahead and read it off to you, just because it's one of my favorite quotes. So it's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes out short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. So, pretty dramatic, but I think if you're doing this lean stuff well and you're working with a real organization in the real world, this is the kind of feeling that you're going to get. All right. So with that, now I'm going to switch gears, and as we've said, we don't have a celebrity today. You guys are going to be the celebrities, and what I want to do is I want to break this into two parts. First, I want to have a little bit of practice in telling somebody what is Lean Six Sigma. So you guys have just completed a 10-week course, or you're, as a black belt, you're sort of halfway through. Somebody's going to come up to you, or you're going to have to explain, how you spent your summer. And you're going to tell them, well, I took a course in Lean Six Sigma, and you need to, be able to articulate that to them. So I'm going to use two mechanisms for this. One is I'm going to go ahead and we're going to break it to chat rooms, and I'm going to have you spend a little bit of time explaining to your chat room participants what is Lean Six Sigma. And let's see, so I'm going to get my timer out here. And this is we're going to make this fairly short. I'm going to make this a 4-minute exercise. So I'm going to break you into chat rooms. Tell your partner what your definition of Lean Six Sigma was. And then I'm going to ask a few of you to share some definitions that you think are particularly sort of applicable or work particularly well in trying to articulate this. Think about being able to do this definition of Lean Six Sigma in 60 seconds. So I'm not talking about a sort of rambling walk through every more steam screen or concept that you saw, but in a tight 60 seconds, what is Lean Six Sigma? Any questions about what we're going to do here in the breakout rooms before we break you out? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to do breakout rooms. So we've got, looks like 10 participants. So I'm going to do 4 rooms. And this will give us 2 to 3 participants on rooms. And I'm going to set the time at 4 minutes. You don't have much time, but go ahead and go. So go ahead and join your rooms.
Hello?
Well, let's see. I got to hit the open rooms thing. There we go. All right, now you should be in your rooms. Let's see. Chelsea, you haven't joined. Laura, could you go ahead and talk to Ravi a little bit?
Sorry, sure, yeah.
Okay, thanks. So, Malia, are you are you in a room or?
Yeah, Dr. Olson, I'm with Tom on my work computer, but he can't hear me.
But he can't hear you.
Is there a way to take this login over to Tom?
Let's see.
That's weird. The option that lets you change the chat to just.
Poor guy, he's trying to talk to me.
Yeah. Let's see.
To be short, so you have enough time to type.
I'm not sure. I'm gonna go ahead and join your room. Can you?
Basics is
Okay.
together.
So Tom, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, let's see. So Malia came up to me and said she can't, or you can't hear her. Let me see. So Malia, can you try to say something so I can see if I can hear you? Malia? No. I think she's splitting between like her phone and her computer instance. So she can't get them both at the same place, or I don't know how to in the chat room. So Tom, you want to go ahead and quit the chat room, and the three of us will be at the top level. Is that okay?
Right. Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and do that. So Malia.
I hear you.
Yeah, now you can hear us.
Okay.
So I
Thank
wanted,
you.
yeah, that's okay. So Tom is here and Malia's here. Tom, you were sort of going at your thing here. Let me see how much time we have left here. I've only got about 40 seconds. So I got to get everybody back involved. Malia, you want to take a quick shot at it?
Yeah, so sorry, okay, Lean Six Sigma to me, I think it's just problem solving with my team for process efficiency and less waste.
Excellent. I like that. That's very
4 seconds.
short and to the point. So Judy, you kind of joined us at the top level. Were you having problems in your chat room? Hey, Judy,
Yeah, good and
yeah. So I'm gonna bring everybody back now. So not to worry.
Sorry.
It's okay. We're all good. So it takes 30 seconds to sort of close the rooms. So Judy, are you being safe? I know we can see that you're driving in your car there. Are you okay? You have to unmute.
yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm just having trouble getting all the features to work all the time.
Okay. So it looks like you're in the passenger seat. Is that true?
Yeah, I'm the passenger, but I'm still not doing it very well.
Yeah. Okay. No, I understand. Thanks. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and so I think we're all back now. All right. So what I want to do is go around and I want let's say we got like 3 good definitions. So who thinks now that they've had a chance to articulate it to somebody in their chat room can share it with everybody in the audience here? So somebody raise their hand. All right, Tom, go ahead. You were talking to yourself for a while, but
Yeah, I was. So for me, if I were to define Lean Six Sigma in a simple, clean, concise definition, it's for me the idea of a team or members of a company coming together and really getting in tune with what their company is and how it works so that they can simplify it down to the least common denominator and make it run as efficiently as possible.
Nice. I like that. And I hopefully you guys are also sort of scribbling down notes because, maybe whatever your definition is, there's going to be some other things you're going to hear and we can all sort of learn from each other. Anybody else want to share their definition? Thank you, Tom, for sharing that. You want to take their definition out for a spin? Okay, Robbie, go ahead.
Sir, actually, I was talking to Laura with the breakout meeting.
Right.
Actually, Lean and Six Sigma is 2 different term methodologies, and we are combining it. Like Lean is basically to eliminate the waste.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have about 7 waste downtime. The acronyms like overproduction and waiting, and those are the Lean that we are eliminating the waste. And Six Sigma is how to control the process, probably how to measure the process. So we are using the DMAIC methodology, like DMAIC phase to identify the problem and how to control the process, like how to control the productions. So that's how I understood, and that's what I was talking to Laura.
Okay, so that's sort of the 2 different pieces approach of do it. I tend to look at it, I try to think of it as a little bit more of a holistic concept, all the way from reducing waste to the Six Sigma side of reducing variation. But I think if it works for you to sort of split them out into those sort of 2 different sections or pieces, by all means, that makes sense. Who else has a definition to share? I want to get one more before we move on. Somebody take one for the team here.
I'll share mine. This is Charles again.
Okay, Charles, go ahead.
So I guess yeah. So for me, I tend to want to think about them separately, but I can appreciate what you're saying there. So for me, I guess the way that I would sum it up is by using a standard set of tools and capturing metrics to reduce waste, lower costs, improve quality, and add value by exceeding established baseline standards.
Right. Yeah, no, I like that. And like if you work value into your definitions in some way, I think it's good. And the idea that customers are the ones that determine the value, right, is another way to I think make the bells go off for people too. Okay. All right. Well, good. Well, thanks for sharing that. Let me go back to my share screen here. So that was the first part of what I wanted to do, is sort of a wrap up exercise, give you guys a way to, you're going to have to talk and tell people what Lean Six Sigma is. And then I want you to be able to talk specifically about your project. So over the course of the quarter or the 10 weeks, we've been sort of building up this from define, measure, analyze, improve, control. At this point, you should have all the elements there. I'm going to go ahead and break you into chat rooms again. And what I want you to do is also shoot for a sort of a 60-second time frame. Try to explain to your chat room partner what your project was in terms of define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. What do you do for each one of those things? And try to keep it, succinct. So this is your kind of your elevator pitch. All right. Questions about what's going to happen here at this point? Let's see. So Malia, if you and Tom want to stay at the high level and not join a chat room, you can kind of do your thing with me if that's okay with you. All right.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. Let's try to make that work. And I'm assuming everybody's going to go in the same chat room. So let's see if this works. So Laura, if you could work with Ravi again, that would be good also. So chat, breakout rooms. Okay, here we go. Whoops. It looks. Well, let's see. So I'm going to leave breakout room. Okay, so let's see. So we got Tom, Malia, and Chelsea. You're up here at the top level. Is that so? Why don't let's see. Oh, I see what happened. Okay, good. And Chelsea, do you want to go ahead into your room and join Cassie?
I think she just did.
Oh, she just did. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go ahead and get started. Malia, why don't you go ahead and start out?
Okay, so I'm sorry, you just want me to identify what tools I used in the process?
No, I want you to tell your story, right? So what I want to do is tell your Lean Six Sigma story from define through control.
Oh, okay. Well, interestingly enough, I ran this through my boss to try to get agreement to do the process, and right from the get-go, from the project charter, she wanted me to go right to the control. So that was my challenge from the very beginning, was putting the team together. But so in the define stage, once I got the project charter approved, got everybody on board, I kind of had to work around my boss right to the frontline employees to really get to where I needed to be. I knew I needed to be.
Good.
So fortunately, I got the right people on the group to help me with my process flow map. We had several revisions of it because they didn't understand the concept of I did want the detail. So the people that I had originally on my team said, no, you don't want to work with that person. She's going to give you too much detail. Yeah. I said, no, that's exactly what I need.
So Malia, I think, so that's, I would love to sort of talk to you about like this, and it sounds like you got a real story there to tell, right?
Yes.
But let me see if I can sort of help you. So define, like, what was the problem?
Oh, okay.
What's the one sentence on the problem?
Okay. So, in defining the problem, I guess it really was that we had no idea what the process was.
Okay, so lack of clarity in the process.
Correct. Lack of clarity and lack of ownership.
Right. So then what was the measure for that problem?
So the measure is we went and I used the bar chart and the Pareto chart just to get an understanding of what the difference was that we were measuring between the two functions. We're trying to move our invoice payments from the manual check process to ACH or EFT.
Okay.
So we had no idea how many of them we were doing, what the time involved was,
okay. All right.
who was doing them.
That helped you sort of visualize what was going on in the process.
Correct.
And then how do you analyze it?
Well, we pulled queries on the volume of checks. We looked at what the wait time was, what the process time was to run queries.
So in the analyze phase, you're trying to figure out what the root cause is.
Oh, sorry. So analyze, yes. So then I used the 5 why analysis.
Oh, okay.
And in the 5 why analysis, I actually shifted where I thought the problem was with accounts payable back to my team in purchasing. And I thought, oh my goodness, it starts with us. And we're really the ones.
Okay, well, good. So then what kind of improvements did you do?
So I used the fishbone, and from there we really brainstormed. We looked at a collaboration of both departments on what we really felt were the underlying factors to not doing what we wanted it to do. And then we did a failure mode FMEA analysis and really got to 5 core failure modes that we identified to be what we wanted to really try to control.
Okay. All right. And then so then what'd you do in your control phase?
So then we did the check process to identify that we have implemented what we decided what in the 5 core areas we needed to control, and then check it, keep doing it, and then basically standardize work.
Oh,
so we
to lock it in.
Correct.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so that's where I wanted to sort of walk through those 5 steps. And I would love to talk to you about the longer cocktail party version of it, because it sounds like there's a lot of drama there, sounds like. Okay.
Well, CSU.
Yeah, hey, Tom, could you go ahead and give us the walk through the 5 phases real quick?
Sure. Can you hear me all right?
Yep, I can hear you.
So I had approached a friend of mine who owns a music shop and asked him, hey, did you want to do this improvement process? We can look at something in your business and find ways to cut waste and improve it for you. And he started giving, ideas like, well, maybe we can change this or this. And he sort of started out trying to find solutions instead of like addressing what a problem is. So I asked him, let's not jump the gun. So what's a specific problem that you've had? And he said, one of the things is sometimes if certain items don't sell, like guitar strings, they become tarnished over time and they end up being lost as waste. So we said, okay, well, there's certain things going on with your inventory and the way that you're stocking it and moving it out that maybe we could look at. So we started by...
So that was the problem. What's the measure?
So for the measure, we had set up, I would give him a check sheet, and every time he would sell something, he would make a mark next to the item that he was selling, so we could keep track of through the week what he was selling at what times. And from that, we had assembled it into a Pareto chart and found that the most issues that he had wasn't actually strings being tarnished. It was inventory being unsold or inventory being out of stock or not offered.
Okay. So
then we began to see that, okay, well, we're not going to be able to address the initial concern you had, but instead we're finding other problems.
Right. So then I would say, so going into the analyze phase, I'd say, okay, well, what's the root cause of that out of stock or those other problems that you found?
Right. And
what kind of analysis did you do?
So in the analyze, the main thing we used was 5 why analysis, where we recognized we had a problem, and we would keep asking, well, if this thing was unsold, why is it unsold? It's because there's not enough demand. If it's not enough demand, it's because we stocked up too much of it, because we ordered too much. Then it comes down to really he was just stocking in order to have some of everything and not stocking based on what he would do.
So what improvements did you put in place? I'm watching the time too as we go there.
So real quick, for improvement, we had gone through and restocked inventory based more on our estimates of what we believed would sell based on weekly demand, and in control to make sure that we were still being in touch with that. We had something set up where each week we would have new check sheets to see how much demand we stocked and how much, if we're able to continually reduce or at least keep track of the amount of inventory unsold, so we have a metric that we can observe and try to lower each time.
Okay. And we're going to, like, in 6 seconds, we're going to go sort of pop back in. So, but I appreciate you doing that. Okay. So, so it looks like we're all back at the top level once again. Tom didn't get through to his control point, but what I'm going to do is ask some other folks. So I heard in detail from Malia and also from Tom some pretty good work going on in these projects. I'm really impressed. But also in sort of talking with us, there's sort of the longer sort of cocktail party version of the story, and then there's the boom, 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 1, 2, 3, define, measure, analyze, improve version. And so I'm more interested in the boom, boom, boom version of the story at this point. But I would love to chat with some of you guys about the longer version, because it sounds like there's some real interesting human dynamics going on, and some of the things you guys learned in these projects, pretty amazing. So how about somebody other than Tom and Malia? Let's get a couple people to go ahead and share their story. Does anybody have a story that they can share with us? Their Lean Six Sigma story? And I'm going to go ahead and put the screen back up here, and I'm going to go to the next thing. So who wants to go ahead and share their story? You got Robbie or Chelsea? You guys want to jump in there? Everybody's being kind of shy. Cassie, you interested?
This is Charles. So I'll, if you don't mind, I'll talk about my project again. I talked about it briefly. Last week. So basically, the goal of the project was to try to increase the number of rental payments that were received by the due date each month. So that was sort of the definition of the problem and what we were trying to achieve. The measurement, for the measurement phase, we took a look at basically we captured some metrics on how many people were paying on time.
Right. I remember that. Charles, did we lose you? We can't hear you at this point. Right. So Charles gets back on. We'll come to him back at the end. Cassie, can you kind of walk us through where you're at on your project?
Yes. Okay. So I'm getting my black belt, so I'm not all the way through.
Right.
Eric and I have been talking a lot about it. So I'm in the healthcare industry, and a very common Lean project is OR throughput. So not a throughput, operating room turnaround times. So how long does it take to turn over an operating room for the next patient?
So I was currently told when I was gathering just verbal information that the current turnaround time is somewhere between like 2 hours, and I was really shocked. But this last couple of days I've been drilling down the data. So when a patient leaves the room, wheels out to wheels in, it's like 35 minutes. So it's much better than what they thought. But when I go get the voice of the customer, it wasn't so much as wheels out to wheels in. It was the physician leaves and they wait. But sometimes the physician leaves and there's a different doctor closing the patient. So they're really wanting to pretty much measure the physician wait time and what happens during that wait time and how to, because I said those are two for data sets.
Well, that voice of the customer can be some valuable stuff sometimes, because otherwise you would have spent, several months on that project, right?
Well, yeah. And I said, okay, when the doctor leaves till the doctor comes back, those are totally different than wheels in, wheels out. And do we have that data? Then I went to someone said, no, we don't have that data. And then I found out where the data was today. So it's just hunting and pecking for the data. But the plan is we're going to do a Kaizen event. The first session, we're going to do the define phase and learn. And then I'm going to do a spaghetti map and then a process map and have the data, bring it back to the second Kaizen session.
Okay.
And where we map out the process, we'll do a swim lane flow map, I'm thinking. And then the third one will be the improvement phase.
And this is all around the measure and the problem of waiting for the doctor?
Well, and everything that happens in between of turning the room over.
Okay.
So it's still turnover, but
It's still turnover, okay.
Is that we're going to really use the methodologies for changeover.
Right.
So,
okay.
Because it's still changeover.
Yeah, it's just switching over. Okay, well that's interesting. That's good insight. So so as part of your analyze thing, you're going to be doing that Kaizen event,
Yes.
Which sounds like it's going to be a real interest. Are you feeling more comfortable with that at this point?
Yes, and then I learned today that it's pretty much $20 every minute that there's downtime. So
okay.
That's what I learned today too. So, but yeah, I'll be moving forward and presenting all this again in December.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Well, I look forward to hearing the rest of the story. As some radio personality says, his name slips my mind at this point. But well, thank you for sharing that. Okay. Well, good. So you guys you're putting together a story. So just sort of think about that as you a couple things that happen, as a natural outcome of these sorts of projects. One is you're going to have to tell people about this project at some point in the future. So doing a little bit of work and preparing like what your story is. Certainly you're going to have to tune your story to whether it's somebody who's, a boss in an elevator who doesn't have a lot of patience and just wants to know like what the bottom line is, versus somebody you could share a little bit more deeply with as you're trying to think about, organizational cultural issues or how these things apply. The other thing is, certainly these things are going to go into some sort of resume and maybe will show up in some sort of job interview at some point in your future. One of the things that when I talk to people who know something about black belt and green belt certification, yes, they will look at who the certifying authority is, right? So in this case, Cal Poly was the certifying authority, or the American Society for Quality was the certifying authority, or I got my black belt with General Electric, right? So there's that sort of name recognition piece of it. But the people that really know about this stuff in the industry, they're not so much about the name or even sort of the training or the test you took, but they want to know more about what projects you did. What did you really improve in an organization? What did you learn? So being able to articulate these projects is a key element moving forward. And certainly that, last but not least, when you're trying to convince your organization or other organizations you go to start to do some of these things, you're going to need your little, grab bag full of stories that you're going to need to pull out and say, hey, back when I was working for XYZ, or back when I was doing my Greenbelt project, these are some of the things I did, and these are some of the outcomes I have. So these things can be like gold in your career, so treat them like gold. All right. One last thing that I want to do, and let me just go back here. Whoop. So the last thing I want to do is a little session or post-mortem session called Roses and Onions. So you guys, a lot of you in your Greenbelt or you're wrapping up in your mini project did it, a project closeout. One way to do a project closeout, though, is to sit down with your team and have some honest discussion about what went well, what didn't go so well, maybe what did we learn. And what I'm going to do is we're going to do a little Roses and Onions session. I'm going to try to use a new sort of blackboard here. And let's see here. All right, so this is my my new little blackboard. And to do this, what I'm going to do, the way we do a Roses and Onions session is it's sort of an enhanced brainstorming technique. And I'm interested in roses, things that went well in this course, onions, things that didn't go quite so well, or things that we want to look at improving. And if you're doing this with a team, just so you don't start in what I call an onion cascade, when people, a bunch of negativity builds up and people just, talk about all these different things that have gone wrong. The rule in Roses and Onions is we have to start out with 2 roses. So I want to hear 2 things that went really well in the course or that you really liked about the course, and then we can open it up to maybe some onions. So who wants to offer some things that they liked about the course? All right, Cassie, give me a rose.
I liked I really enjoyed the videos, and I feel like the more, even on my off time from this class, I watched a lot of videos on through the Gamba Academy and through other videos.
Okay, good, yeah, so just the exposure, letting you guys know that those things are out there. All right, so Malia, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did. I liked the guest speakers because it kind of gave us insight into the real world and how lean is being applied and used in the different industries. I thought that was really helpful.
Okay, good, yeah, and the guest speakers change every quarter. Every time I do this class, I'm glad you guys appreciate them. I think it's important to get that real world connection. Okay, so we're open up to both either roses or onions. Anybody else have something they want to contribute at this point? There's got to be some things we can improve here. Yeah, Tom.
Well, just one thing about having a course be online in general that a couple times has been kind of inconvenient is that as far as making the meetings, I've had a couple times where my internet is cut out like halfway through, and it can make it difficult to jump back in and provide discussion. Whereas something being in an online, or not an online, in in-class format, you can't lose internet access to raise your hand and speak in an actual classroom.
Yeah. Yeah, and I apologize for that. We're always sort of trying to get better on this sort of thing, but thanks for pointing that out. Trying to get a good balance somehow. Let's see, Cassie, did you have your hand up again? I see.
Yes, you and I had already kind of talked about this a little bit, but was to include in the class how to do Kaizen events.
Right.
That was just that the class is running out of time.
Right.
But to include the whole theory and philosophy and how to do one, because I think it's so applicable to lean and how we would use it out in the real world.
Yeah, it'd be great too to sort of figure out how to either do a Kaizen simulation or online where we can sort of actually sort of walk through something like that. I think that would be great. Thanks for reminding me on that.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Other things on how to improve the course or things that went well? You know, sometimes I'm just as likely to eliminate things that I don't know are working well as that I am to, you know, fix things that are broken. So just let me know.
I have a couple of things. Oh,
yeah,
never mind.
Go ahead, Charles.
So one of them, I think that you hit on a couple times a bit ago was, you know, trying to include the transactional and green belt and black belt in the same thing, which I think it's a onion and a rose. I think that, you know, that there's good reasons for it, and I think that it really well. And then I think just sometimes it's you know, I get confused by what applies to me and what doesn't. You know.
Yeah.
The other thing that I was going to mention was when it comes to the mini projects, I don't know if the class ever had a format where maybe the mini projects were done in groups, but maybe you need a bigger class for that. I don't know, maybe like groups of two where two people work together to solve a problem, or maybe you've tried that already and it didn't work. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you know, I've tried it before in, I guess, earlier generations of lean classes I've taught, and it can be very effective. It's kind of a different experience. What we're doing now at Cal Poly is we've introduced a sort of a 2-class format. So now we have the basic lean, which is what you guys have experienced with this course, where we kind of go over sort of all the sort of technical issues. You get to do something on your own. And in our advanced course, there's more sort of team-based simulations and problem-solving type things that go on. So, but trying to bring that element into this class might be an interesting thing we can look at.
And one other thing that I was going to say, and maybe this kind of goes along with what Tom was saying, and you know, I know that this class it's designed as an online class, and I think for the most part it works really well. But maybe there's a component in there where you do meet in person one time somewhere, and I guess you attempt to achieve that, I suppose, at the hobnob that I wasn't able to make it to, but it's probably good to throw that something like that in there every now and then.
Well, let me I guess we get sort of, I was going to say we could sort of raise hands. We have sort of a limited sample size here at this point. But I do the hobnob to sort of socialize, but from a course content technical sort of standpoint, it probably wouldn't hurt to have like a meeting or two where you say, okay, let's just sort of get together physically and chat. We tend to do that during the school year. You know, that's an actual component of the class. People can either show up in person or they can go online. But I tend not to do that in the summer on a regular basis, but once or twice would not be bad. Malia, you have a comment?
Yeah, I have an onion and a rose.
Okay.
The rose was Laura's emails clarifying the week number and the session numbers, because I would get really confused with those. Like, you know, we could be on week 4, session 6, quiz week 4.
Yeah.
Those were very helpful.
Before you go on that, Malia, I got to say that Laura sort of took the initiative to do that, and it was sort of based on her observations in past instances of this class, and people complaining to her and bugging the heck out of her. So she really picked up the ball, and she did do an excellent job on that.
That saved me every week. So thank you. And then the onion for me though, is the mini project being due before the last session on control, because I really paced myself week by week on the sessions, and so having to turn in the mini project before we actually had the class on session 11 was a little challenging for me. So I did not get it turned in on time.
Right.
And I think that might have been helpful to have all the sessions due or completed before the final project's due.
Yeah. I tried to spread that out a little bit, but I did sort of see a problem with that, and that's something I think I'm going to fix in the future. So I take that to heart. Thank you, Moya. Ravi, do you have your hand up?
Yes, sir. I do have the roses and onions.
Okay.
Onions. Let's go with the onions first, and then roses second. When I was doing projects, my wife and I was discussing about the projects, like we are doing project together.
Right.
And I'm kind of like at the end of the semester, like kind of I should have been done one at a time, and then at the end it'll be very easier. But what happens is I kept it for the due date, so everything doing together. So what I was talking to her last week, when every week, and we have other homework assignments, maybe where each tool when you finish, probably we should do the 2 tools, like each phase 2 tools, just you can submit. At the end, it'll be very easier for us to submit it. What I'm saying, like every week, we should have 1 tool or 2 tools submission, so that at the end will be like all the students will be very easy because they're doing the top of the homeworks. Even the mini projects, like each phase when you finish, we have to finish the 2 tools, like whatever we selected.
Right. And Ravi, just so I've sort of thought about that, but I struggle because sometimes, there's delays in getting data from the company you're working with, and students need to sort of travel back to visit their parents' company or whatever. But I hear what you're saying, and trying to create that rhythm or discipline in knocking out the elements of the project, that would be something we could try to achieve. So I take the issue to heart. I'm still trying to figure out a fair way to do that for everyone.
Right.
Okay.
And the roses, that's what I thought this one. So maybe that would, for me, it's like I need to have a due date so that I will sit on it and do it. Otherwise, I don't do. I don't know. Maybe other students will be right on, but for me, like, oh, today is the due date, I got to do it. So leave everything and then sit on the project and do it. It's like sit on the assignments or homeworks.
Right.
On the roster side, sir, I'm from the bottom of the heart. You and Lara really helped a lot. Online emails and sometimes chats too.
Okay.
So I wanted to thank you both. It was really helpful, sir. And the Lara emails right away. Like even any questions, she will respond to me, and then clarify my questions. And you as well too, sir. And sometimes I have questions, I pick up a call and I call you, and then we talk that too, sir.
Okay.
So that support was really great, sir.
Well, I'm glad you took advantage of that. This subject is near and dear to my heart, and the more I can sort of help the next generation of lean leaders, the happier I am. So I'm glad you appreciated that, and I know I appreciate Laura's diligence also in answering your guys' questions. That's also very key. Thank you. Any other roses or onions?
Thank you.
That people have or want to share? Okay. Well, as we sort of go forward in time, I don't want us to be strangers. Feel free to reach out to me anytime if you run into some lean roadblock in your journey. I'd be happy to talk you through it or help you through it. Please be in touch. The next thing is finishing the project grading and final grades, and then and before final grades, the final project or the final exam on Sunday or Monday. So if you have any questions before then, please reach out and contact me. Other than that, this wraps up the course for the green belts and the transactional green belts. And I hope to talk to you guys in the future. All right, black belts, I'll talk to you guys on the 29th, if not sooner.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Dr.
Okay, thank you guys. Take care. And let's go ahead and stop share. And that's it for me.
Bye.
See ya. Bye from San Antonio. All right, bye-bye.
Okay, enjoy the conference.
All right, take care. Bye.
Bye.